And I am thrilled to introduce to you our facilitator for today. John Kembel is one of the co-founders of the D School, and he is a serial technology entrepreneur and design thinking educator. And he is the founder of dglobal.org, which is a non-for-profit organization that came out of Stanford D School with a mission of unleashing the creative potential of everyone on this planet. That mission, unleashing the creative potential of everyone on this planet. And we just met in person yesterday. We've done some emailing, and he lives and breathes creativity, from the way he designs a room to the way he produces a workshop. So I'm really excited. This will be a really special session. So thank you, John. You're on.
Thank you. Good. Is that for the grandiose mission, or is that my groovy t-shirt? Yeah. So I had a sport coat on this morning and a collared shirt, which was great for showing up. I helped with some of the Confluence things. But after listening to some of that and preparing to jump into this maker thing, I'm like, I'm putting on a maker shirt. And this is from the steel company. I live in Boulder. And the team that helped do some steel in our house, it was my favorite part of that whole stress project. And so I thought I was going to wear this on the airplane back, but I thought I'd put it on now. I hope you don't mind me not showing up in a suit. So if you have a jacket, I give you permission to take it off as well. So one of the crazy things. Thank you for that introduction. Who's heard of the D School? Who's been to the D School? That's one of the challenges. That's why we're working on D Global. Who's familiar with design thinking? Okay, who's actively used it? Great, so we can just actually jump right in. Let me just show you a picture of the D School, if you haven't been there. That's one of the challenges. We hack rooms. Is it better for me to stand out here? I don't know. I'm not solving for the camera. It's just very different, as you can see, than most classrooms we're familiar with. And I know that's going to resonate with everybody here. But it didn't start this way. It started in a double-wide trailer on campus that nobody wanted, and had to move space, like campus spaces often do, every year for 7 years until the big building was ready. And that actually turned out to be a gift to learn what it was like to evolve the space to be able to teach in a more experiential way. Not the model of teaching which you pour in, which most of academia and education is based on, but more the model of teaching, an older model where you draw out. And that has fundamental implications, not just in mindsets, but in team dynamics, right, and in space. So I just wanted to show you this, just to show you almost a glimpse of that. And my hunch is this is going to be very obvious to you, which I think is really exciting. It's almost intimidating to drop into a maker community, which is new for me. Well, I've been making my whole life. I've been working in design thinking, product design my whole life, but I've not been engrossed in the maker movement, so I'm on a learning curve. And so, it's very foreign when you drop into a big business to talk about these things. I have a chance. My hunch is that we can get started a little further downfield. So I'm going to try to push us into this pretty quickly. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that's not me. That's my twin brother. We were in the design program together with David Kelly and the folks who are around there, and the precursor to the D School. And George, I'll answer to that name too, but George and David Kelly were the technical co-founders, and I was on the founding strategy team. David pulled a bunch of people to help balance the guidance within the Stanford context early on. And now, as she mentioned, I've been working with George and a few other pioneers on D Global, because surprisingly, the D School survived Stanford, and now the D School is focused on reaching all the students on campus, going from 1,000 to 14,000, because it's important now. We thought we were getting in trouble from the dean to get started. You can't call yourself a school, but now it's important. And then now the movement globally is even greater. And so that's why we're trying to figure out how to learn. How do you teach when you're not at the groovy space with all the affordances, when you're out in the world in radically different cultures and radically different contexts? So we've been quietly running experiments for a couple of years to learn. So we're kind of in the trailer days for D Global. So we'd love to learn with you on that. So that's a little bit of context. We have a short 40-ish minutes together, which is not enough time to really do anything. But our whole style of teaching is to, instead of talk, is to do things. And so I've designed these sessions to run in a slightly different way. The first one is more of an overview of design thinking in an experiential way, so maybe a story. And then I want to run you through some creative postures. Okay? And I'll tell you what that means in a second. And the second session, I thought, okay, let's actually then try to use some of these creative strategies rather than our normal habits of mind to see how we might take some of the insights that we've seen from today, it's a variation of empathy, and see how they might help us think differently about our work. So the next 45 minutes is more applied. How's that sound? Okay, since you've all heard about design thinking, I have two fronts of the room. Here's the other one. Is this familiar? And I loved the theme this morning. Like almost it was the whole conversation this morning. Who was in the big stage, the really, really, really wide one, right? It's like problem finding and new and renew. It's like it was in there. The need to not just solve problems well, but almost more importantly, find problems worth solving. It was said probably 4 different ways. And that's almost at the crux of this design thinking thing, is it's a way that designers tend to work, and I think Vishal talked about it very eloquently, but so did many of the other folks, that instead of jumping to ideas, which we're all trained to do, and solve problems that we've seen patterns of before, very important skill for domains that are known, hold your ideas lightly, disrupt the habit to solve a problem, and instead see if you can orient off of other folks. Right? Learn through their experiences. Are you even working on a problem worth solving? And so what I'm excited about design thinking, is it provides the context once you get to making to give you confidence that you're focusing your creative energies on something that'll make a difference to people. And so this is the methodological way to talk about these different mindsets, right? So let me tell you a story that shows what that feels like, and then we'll run into creative postures. Okay, so since you have heard of this design thinking thing, I don't know which stories you've heard. So I have 2 in the back pocket. Who's heard the incubator story? Okay, 1. Who's heard the scanner MRI story? Wow, I could tell them both. Sweet. Let me tell. Scanner? You think so? Okay. Incubator? What's that? They're good. They're both really good stories. And if you want to hear them both, I'm going to tell this one because of the way I want to tell it. Okay? So this is Jane Chen. And if you've heard the story, hold the punchline. This is Jane Chen. She's a student. This is a picture of her at the D school. You can tell because all the Post-it notes, right? She actually came in through the business school, the GSB. And like the D school is actually not a school. It doesn't grant degrees. It doesn't admit students, despite the name. And it's not about design either. It's about design thinking, right? We believe everything is designed and everybody's creative, which is not how most people think of where innovation or creativity comes from. So anyway, students from all over the school come to the D school to learn these ways of working, to tackle problems nobody knows the answer to. And so they're paired with radically cross-functional teams, you can imagine, right? And so she was a part of the team, and they take a class to work on projects that are sponsored by learning partners. And the project that they were given, the class that she was in was called Design for Extreme Affordability. Can I set this here? I'm not going to hand it to you, but I almost thought of that. Wouldn't that be great? Design for Extreme Affordability. And the partner they were working with was a nonprofit that's been working on infant mortality globally for 20 years or something like that. And I'm a twin, as I mentioned. We were born 2 months premature. And so I personally resonate with this. But it turns out that of the millions and millions of babies that are born every year premature, 90% of those, I believe, are in developing countries. And the majority of those that die are in developing countries. And so this nonprofit's been working for a long time on one of the biggest problems is the incubators that help these babies, right, are really expensive, like 30,000 US. So a lot of the developing countries get hand-me-down incubators, which can come in any language, really complicated, often not in the best shape. And so the nonprofit asked the students, hey, can you help us innovate and design a less expensive incubator? And so I'm going to use it as a warm-up for you. If you were to do that, how might you design a less expensive incubator? What are some strategies you could use? I know it's the end of the day. Change the material, right. So expensive materials. Let's see if we can less expensive materials. Yeah, what else? Solar. Maybe energy is a cost, or some of the components are costs. It almost reflects like what are the theaters, medical theaters these are in. Maybe you don't have Reliable power, very, very, very good, important. Sorry, size. Yeah, well, you can ask that in many different ways, but almost like, do you need this cart? That's almost like more like part count. Which parts are essential? Do you need the cart? Do you need the pole? Can we simplify in a way? What else?
Yeah, the drawers, everything. I mean, you know, basically need to just have the piece that sits on
Yeah.
maybe a table.
And maybe some of this computer stuff,
Yeah.
but maybe that's a little more less expensive, some Android device. Yeah, what else?
So the way I'm thinking about it is deconstructing the parts and
Yeah.
the process of how it works.
Yep.
And just seeing them like how do they all work together and figuring out what goes.
I'd love to see an exploded view of an incubator and say, well, we don't need that one, or this together has this function, let's do that, come back out and redesign it. Yeah, so these are all great. And if we were to take any of these strategies, what would we get? A less expensive incubator, which would be an incremental innovation, which is important. But we actually tell the story this way because it reveals something more important, which is a habit of mind. We all just jump to ideas, which I asked you that. But everybody, including Stanford students and all the executives, everybody we work with around the world, they just got to jump straight to ideas. Doesn't matter who we talk to. It's like that's the habit to jump in, even if we give you a little clue ahead of time. It's like hold lightly on the ideas. So the students we asked them that, and they had an empathy plan to go out into, instead of sitting in a room with your experts, why don't you go out in the field and try to understand this from the experience of people who go through it. And so they went to Nepal and started touring local hospitals and walking around, and they found something surprising. It's like in the hospitals, they had incubators. But the thing that was surprising was that they were empty. So a student just turned to a doctor and said, we notice you have incubators. Why are the incubators empty? And the doctor said, offhand, oh, most of the premature babies are born far out in the country. They don't survive the trip. Crazy, right? So it doesn't make a difference how inexpensive you make the incubator. It doesn't help in this situation. So the students did something crazy. Is they actually bought a bus ticket, didn't tell the professors, and went out to the country and started talking, which is the heart of empathy. Understand this through the experience of people who go through it. Went out to the country, started spending time with families and mothers who lost one child, 2 children, 3 children. You can imagine what those conversations were like. But they then got confidence that they were working on something very important, and their engagement levels went up. And after talking with families, they realized what they needed was not a less expensive incubator. What they needed was a way to keep babies warm long enough to survive the trip to make it to the hospital. Right, do you feel what happened? That's a reframe. We thought we were working on this problem, less expensive incubator, but we redefined the problem based on insights that we garnered from talking to real people. And now the problem is about warmth for travel. And so once you get that, all kinds of things are possible. If you think about how do you keep things warm, like the students came back and they started what first comes to mind? Like a sleeping bag, right? So that one of their first prototypes is this. Right, you can hold it, which is very natural. And they didn't do a lot of thinking. They just went down to the REI store and grabbed some sleeping bag stuff and cut it up and made it. And they started talking to food service people and how do you keep things warm? How do you keep things warm? And they found a phase change material. It's kind of like butter that you can stick in boiling water. It absorbs heat, and then you put it in the little back of this thing right at the baby temperature, and it decays like this. Then you put it back in water. Right? And then they iterated from there. Very experimentally. They made prototypes, they put it in the hands of mothers. They made prototypes, put it in the hands of doctors. And iterated, I don't have another picture, but they added a window because the doctors needed to sort of get in there. And then the mothers wanted to make sure the baby was okay. They added a pouch because the mothers didn't know if that inert material was safe. It was, but it doesn't matter. They wouldn't use it if they didn't, right? Added things like that. And now they've stopped. The career trajectories they had in mind, like go get a big job, and they've started a company called Embrace, and I believe they're based in India, and they're in clinical trials, and they're set up to save, goodness, 100,000 babies' lives? I don't remember the stats. But equally interestingly, improve the life quality of the children that survive, but with lasting consequences. And for countries like the ones they're working in, that has a chance to raise GDP a significant amount. So that's an example of, just through story form, of how strategies of problem finding, which I would almost call this whole section up here, before you jump to problem solving, is very important. And that strategies of empathy is one of the best ways you can disrupt your habits of mind or disrupt your assumptions or see it very clearly from a human level. There are other ways so that you can define problems that it's worth solving. But you don't stop there. Then you don't take just the first idea. You generate as many different ways to solve it, prototype and test your way forward, not with like a 6-month pilot, but really rapid low-res prototyping. Making is perfect right here, right? And then you test and iterate your way down. Right? Does that make sense? I was very familiar, but that's a story to give you a warm-up. Okay. Now I want to change gears and tell you about the rest of the session. My job is to time block it. And I'll figure out what our new end time is with the flexible time today. But I'd like to run you through 2 or 3 activities, and we're going to need to clear the room, so I'm going to need your help. Why don't we do that? Actually, let's stack the chairs in the back, and then stand up, and then get into groups of like 3. Who knows what a Strider bike is? Heard of it? Who has kids and taught them how to ride a bike recently? Okay. Ding. Right. What's a Strider bike? Who remembers now?
That's the way you balance.
Yeah. Totally. Bingo. Not how I learned how to ride a bike. The way we used to teach biking was we toss a little mini version of a really complicated thing and say, figure it all out. Right? But now, I don't know who figured it out. They take everything off except 2 wheels and the steering, and the kids move like this. You're slow to the ground, you're just kind of like half standing, half gliding, and you say, pick up your feet, pick up your feet. And they figure out balance like that, which is the essential part of learning a new skill like biking, right? The balance point. Once you know what it's like, then you can add those other things. And so we've designed a few activities to help you find the balance point for some of these new habits of mind, because it's so hard to disrupt them in yourself. They're very ingrained. And more importantly, they're harder to disrupt in your teams. To help you find the balance point of what it's like to be empathetic, which we know how to do naturally, but we check that at the door at work, usually. Or what the balance point of what it's like to be generative, which we are so afraid of putting unfinished ideas out in front of people that we don't know where that is, right? Or the balance point of what it's like to prototype and test and get feedback, right? How might we reorient our relationship with failure? So that's what we want to walk you through, is some of those balance points. I'd love to squeeze 3 in, but we might get 2. Okay, the first one's empathy. It's the hardest. So now that you're terrified about what I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to give you 3 scenes, okay? And I'm just going to give you a prompt, which is have a conversation in each of the scenes. That's it. Really straightforward. The first scenes is you're at a cocktail party, okay? And you're invited by a really dear friend, but you don't know the friends of friends, but you're pretty sure, since it was a dear friend, that your friend's dear friends you'll like a lot. Okay? So your first prompt is you're at a cocktail party, so get in a little circle like you just met. Okay, you got your drink. Some people say, I got my drinks. Yeah, so you get your drink, right? And your prompt is this. Have a quick conversation about what the highlight of your week was. Okay, you're at a party, you have a conversation, highlight of your week. It's amazing to watch. They're already changing business cards, and you guys are sharing. You're already sharing photos. So thanks for stepping into that. And that is the goal, right? So I'm going to ask you to sort of keep leaning in. And what you want to figure out how to do is how to create a safe place to have an authentic conversation. How can you share authentically? And then figure out where that balance point is for you. And the learning loop, at least I understand, is you find something that's difficult, and then you push past that, right? And you will scaffold your way to make that possible. And you, as a team, you'll have to figure out how to do that too. And then once you get there, you realize, oh, I made it there. Okay. And then you know that you can do it again. Okay. So I want you to find the balance point of your sort of comfort level, and then push into that. And that's an individual thing, a team thing. That's the goal of this, is lean in. So thanks for doing that. That's the scene, first scene. Okay, so it continues, the party continues. You like the folks you met well enough that you thought, well, let's continue the conversation. I saw a park right across the street. Let's go across and hang out in the park. Okay. We were able to control the lights before, I think. There they are, okay. So the sun is setting, right? And as you might do in a park after maybe one drink or so, is you sort of sit down. And I notice we have a few skirts. So if you need to pull up a chair and make a little campfire, please do that. But otherwise, You know, try to sit down and make yourself comfortable. Not like this, but make yourself comfortable as if you were literally hanging out with the folks you're with. If you need to spread out, there's space in the middle. Imagine a little campfire in the scene. Perfect. Okay. Wow, we even have a leg cast. I'm so sorry. We've learned to pay attention to the skirts, but that's the first time I've okay. All right, so now again, you're getting to know these folks, which hopefully truly you are. And as the sun sets and you're enjoying each other's company, now the prompt is talk about what's really important to you. Okay? You're in a park, you're enjoying the conversation, now spend some time talking about what's really important to you. Okay. Again, I apologize for interrupting an even deeper conversation. This becomes harder and harder to sort of grab your attention because a lot of people are sort of leaning into this. Let me have your figure out a way to wind down that conversation. One way is just let me interrupt. There we go. Sorry, I apologize. That's awkward, I know. And I thank you for leaning into that a little bit. We have one more scene. And it's always like, are people going to step into this? And we've run it with people all over the world, and every single time we're surprised they do. So I know you can. Okay? Again, now that I terrified you. So we can stand up. It turns out that the park you're in, you're having a great conversation, but the park you're in wasn't really a park. It was private property. So the officials show up and they arrest you for trespassing. And they haul you off to jail. That's right. Oh, wow. Okay, can we open the door without setting off an alarm? Just to get a little light in here? Is that possible? Should I make it creaky so it's a little eerie? Yeah, okay. There we go. Got a little bit of light. Okay, great. Okay. Can you see me a little bit, sort of? Okay, I can barely see you. And so you're hauled off to jail, which is sort of a dark, uncomfortable place. I've heard. As you are now in the cell together, you start, just by the noises, by the setting, and the way they're talking, you start to wonder whether or not these are real officials. And you start to be suspect of their motivations, right? And you're not sure. Well, let me show you the posture first. Okay, so I'm trying to find a group. So in a cell, I want you to step in uncomfortably close. Okay, like this. Which means, okay, got it. Now you can relax for a second. But you get it? That's the context. That's the setting. And the prompt is, you're not sure that you're going to survive the night. Okay? And so what I want you to talk about is, if you weren't to survive the night, what in life would you regret not having done? Now, the language is very important here. We had someone in Berlin misunderstand it. It's not, what in life would you regret having done? Okay? It's, what in life would you regret not having done? Okay? So take a moment on that and step in and see if you can have that conversation, okay? Let me have your attention. Okay. Now you can step back and relax a little bit. Thanks for doing that. Now I want to debrief that really quickly and then run one more creative posture. It'll be completely different. Okay? So why don't we step in just a little bit? How was that? What was easy? What was hard? Yeah. Do we need to hand the microphone, or can we do it? I'll try to parrot it back. What was easy? What was hard? Or what did you observe? What's that? Oh. I'm so sorry. It's like reading a bedtime story with my girls. Like, well, gotta go to bed. It's like, what happened? Yeah, they let you out of jail. You're so relieved. No, thank you for that. I totally blanked. So everything's okay. The story's done. Now let's. Now remember the Strider bike? I asked you to play a little bit with the balance point of setting conditions for having empathetic conversations. So how did that go? What was that like?
So initially it was actually very, very difficult.
Okay.
First exercise that you gave us in standing in the cocktail party, I, for the life of me, was trying to find every corner that I could not speak. And by the time the fourth one came, fourth or third.
Third, yeah, it felt like 8.
It seemed to just flow. The conversations just went about.
Interesting. What do you? Well, interesting. You know, at a cocktail party, we have a glass that's a barrier, right? In a way. So one of the things we're playing with is changing space. I almost put you back into the park, right? So, but what? So there are a number of things about context. What did you observe that helped with that? Maybe personally or as a group. Help open that up.
Everyone in our group is a really good listener.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah.
I felt that the space got safer as we went along.
And what? How
I
did?
felt
How,
more comfortable with everyone around.
so as you got to know them, or just the?
And the lights.
This is really comfortable. Yeah. No, but the conversation you were holding was getting more and more comfortable.
Yeah, and the conversation was more deep and courageous, so it should have been tougher, but the fact that we had already developed a safe kind of relationship.
So you found a way in. So the exercise helped you find a way in. That's certainly strategies. You don't go straight to the deep end right away.
Well, and I think part of it was that we had permission. So when you're in a cocktail party, you know how if you accidentally overshare,
Yeah.
everybody's like,
Oversharing.
we were supposed to talk deeper.
Interesting, interesting.
Talk about what we were passionate about. So we knew we would have a receptive audience, and that.
I love it. That's very interesting. There's some sort of collective signaling that allows the group to stay in empathetic sync. Yeah, maybe one other? Anybody?
Scaffold the level of trust really nicely with that too.
Yeah. So when you've put yourself, normally in business or context, we show up and we interview the people we're talking to. We don't think as much about setting the conditions to have a deeper conversation, understand their motivations, why they do what they do, right? And these are all things that, without explaining them to you, you start to feel. Setting makes a sense, makes a way to do it. It's part of the equation. Warming your way into it, listening. Another one that comes up sometimes is like, often what it takes is just one person to share authentically to give people, it's kind of the opposite of listening, is one person to step in to the next level of the deep end, right? Those are, yeah.
I was just going to add, something I thought was really interesting was in the last exercise, after we started talking about like our regrets about what we hadn't done, it was like very telling because then I think we're all optimists, so then we started to talk about, we're like, we don't want to die. What, like,
We're makers, we can innovate out of this. That has never come up. I love it. Okay.
collaboration almost, like we almost
So we started regretting not taking military training.
Okay, so, thank you. But that's interesting. I love it brought creativity out as well. I love it. And there's a lot more to debrief here, but you get the point. Is that figuring out how to control the setting for these different mindsets is part of the equation of getting yourself in that mode. And this way of working asks a lot to change postures a lot. So I want to shift gears quickly to one more. We'll run it quickly and then it'll be done. I think we have about 5 minutes, so I'm going to do this quickly, okay? So now you got to pair up. Just quickly turn to one person, pair up. Spread out a little more because you're going to need some room so you don't hit people. Partner, okay, pair up. And partner. If you need a partner, raise your hand. Okay, good, great. You want to come in and help me just demo? We're going to demonstrate and then you'll step back. Okay, really easy exercise. So this diagram, we did a creative posture here. I'm going to do a creative posture kind of in this area. It shows up in different ways. And that is, well, let me just jump into it and we'll debrief it. Really simple exercise with the partner. We're just going to count to 3, okay? But we're going to alternate. Ready? 2, 1, 3, 2. And the goal is we've got to go faster. If we're not messing up, we're not going fast enough. So let's try it again.
1,
2,
3,
1.
2.
Okay? Right? So you get it? If you're not going fast enough, if you're not messing up, you're not going fast enough, now try it. Just warm up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now that you got you warmed up, okay, that was tough. You want to help me again? So we're totally going to put you on pressure. Okay, we're going to make it harder. Make it harder, okay? So instead of 2, we want to clap, okay?
Instead of what?
Instead of number 2, it's clap. So 1, 3, 1. Okay, so let's try it. And remember, if you're not messing up, you're not going fast enough. 1, 3.
1.
Ah! Okay, but you get it. 1, 3. Now, wait, I want to give you one more thing to pay attention to. Okay? When you mess up, pay attention to what you do. Okay? Got it? All right. We're doing this. I don't know if you think this is fun or competitive or both. This is great. So how'd that go? Okay, but remember what I asked you to pay attention to. What did you notice? Laughing. Yeah. Yep. Cognitive overload. Thinking too hard. Yeah. We got slower as we. What else? What else? I was watching, but I'll see if you picked it up. What else? What else did you do? Like what? Like blah. Yeah. in different ways, right? Expletives? Did that come out at all? No?
Get a polite group.
Very polite group. It's amazing what we see. What else? What else?
Lots of eye contact.
Lots of eye contact?
Eye contact.
Okay, you're concentrating?
Yeah, conversation.
Okay.
You don't always look at somebody when,
You're like, we can do this,
I know,
right?
we
No, what else?
helped each other a little bit.
What's
in
that?
a way. We helped each other a little
Okay. Well, what happens when you messed up? What happened to your eye contact for other people? Did you notice? Yeah, you looked away. Anybody else have any other responses related to that? Anybody notice? Yeah, stepped away. I mean, I was watching.
Yeah.
So a lot of people did this,
Yeah.
or just stepped away, or broke contact. What's that about?
We don't like making mistakes.
Yeah. That's the point of this, is if we want to work in this way, we need to reorient our normal habits of mind and normal responses to failure. And it's important to recognize that our responses to failure run very deep. And what's the failure? What's the chance of failure? What's the consequences of failure right here?
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low. Right. I mean, they might think differently of you, but other than that, there's no consequence. And yet we still do it, right? And that's even more pronounced in all of the professional settings that we're in, but it even goes deeper than that. Biologically, and it's very important, we are designed to protect ourselves from the consequences of failure, for safety reasons. That's where this is from, okay? But when you're working in the innovation game, you've heard the phrase fail early, fail often. That almost misses the point. It's almost like learn earlier, right? So you don't fail later. And so the question is, how do you, in a situation where your normal response or collaborative response is to turn away from the consequences, which is amplified in all of our workplaces and in our schools, but instead lean into it and be open for learning. So you have to figure out how to disrupt that biological and habit of mind and turn into it to be open to learning rather than to turn away from failure. So the way we want you to think about that is, here's one last activity, okay? So we're gonna make it even harder. What was it? 1, 3. Okay, so now it's 1. So we already messed up. So we're gonna make it 1, okay? 1, okay? But when we fail, why don't we do this?
Jumping arms.
Okay. Pretty close. Let's go ta-da. Okay. 1. Is that enough to go ta-da? Okay. You see that? So we're turning into it and celebrating it. Okay. So give that a try. Okay. Let me have your attention. Nice work. Nice work. Okay. Thanks for stepping into that. Aren't you glad we ended on that one rather than Party Park Jail? But I think you get the point, right? That's the starter bike. That's the balancing point of when you're working quickly and iteratively and with crummy prototypes or low-resolution prototypes, you have to prepare yourself to learn, which usually you're not that'll give you confidence up front, but you have to be open to learning and prepare your teams for that. And now you know what it's like to, what habit of mind or what responses you need to disrupt. So we did a little creative posture in the empathy to define. How do we set the conditions to have safe conversations? And this is about safety, but on the learning side, how do we celebrate failure? We've had teams go out in the field, have conversations, when things just like drop on the floor, they go, ta-da, right? So they've almost enculturated it. So you've survived. Thank you for getting through this. And I apologize, we have to bring the session to a close. I'd love to hang out and answer any questions. Maybe when we reset the room, I'll just step out of the room, and we can chat out there. And then for anybody who wants to continue, we're going to try to take some of these ways of working, but apply them straight to our work and the challenges that you face every day, which can be a bit of a mini micro design sprint, okay? But before we do that, at the D School, it's not a school. D School doesn't grant degrees. We've always struggled with how do you celebrate folks who survive a creative experience. And so the D School has created these little groovy little pins, and Infosys just created them. And so we're going to do a bit of a come in and where are the pairs? Let me just do this really quickly. Where are the partners? I'm just going to wait. Okay. That's it. Formally it. Thank you.